Hey guys, so today we're going to solve problems involving direct variation. I know that I've mentioned it before that direct variation is just a fancy word for proportional. So we're going to be using direct variation to find unknowns in proportional situations. So before we get started, let's look at a couple of definitions. Direct variation is a special type of linear relationship that can be represented by a function in the form y equals kx. And we've already seen that proportional graphs have that same y equals kx. So that's why I say that direct variation and proportional are exactly the same thing. Constant of variation k, the coefficient of x in the function y equals kx. And again, we've already heard that term as constant of proportionality, which is k. And again, it just means the same thing, it just has a different word. Using direct variation to find unknowns. So here are what the questions are going to look like. Given that y varies directly with x, so that's already reminding you y varies with x, so y over x. It says, and y equals 28 when x equals 7, find x when y equals 52. So we're using direct variation or proportionality to solve for x. Find out what is x when y equals 52. So it says how. So let me go ahead and show you the steps. First, direct variation means proportional. Therefore, and I'm missing an E on therefore, set up the proportion. So again, y varies directly with x. So y over x. So reading the story, it says y equals 28 when x equals 7. So y, which is my numerator, is 28. When x equals to 7, that's my denominator. And I'm going to use a proportion. In other words, two equal fractions. So this says find x. So I'm not going to know the denominator, but I do know that find x when y equals 52. So my numerator will be 52, and my denominator is what we're trying to find. We're trying to find the value of x. So we're going to solve for the missing variable, and you might ask, well, how am I going to do that? We've seen proportions like this in 7th grade, maybe even 6th grade, so we're going to follow the cross multiply and divide method. So first I'm going to get a numerator and a denominator, and I'm going to multiply them. So 52 times 7 equals 364. How did I know to pick 52 times 7? Because if I do 28 times x, I'm not going to know, there's not going to be a number for it. So we are going to cross multiply and then divide. So 364 divided by 28. And that is going to give us that value. X equals to 13. So you're going to follow the same exact steps when trying to find an unknown variable in direct variation. So you might ask yourself, well, what does that all mean, Miss? I know that I can solve for it. I know that I got my answer of 13, but what does that 13 represent compared to what we've already been learning in class? So I'm going to do a brief review of what we learned and make sure you know how it ties in. All right, so it means that if I have a table with the values I have just solved for, the values that I have when I've just solved for x, if y varies directly with x, then I have a graph that is proportional. So you've already seen proportional graphs. So here's what this means. If I have the points 7 and 28, 13 and 52, which is what I just solved for, right? In the other question it said y was 28 when x is 7, so I put 7, 28, and then I solved for 13 and 52. So all I did was I put the values into the table like we've always seen. All right, so how do I know that that's proportional? Like, why do I know to use a proportion where the fraction equals to another fraction, cross multiply and divide? How do I know that that's my steps? Well, I'm going to follow what we've already learned. 28 divided by 7 is equal to 4. 52 divided by 13 is equal to 4. So that's how I know that solving for direct variation means that I'm solving for proportionality. And I know that because I was getting 4 and 4. So I know that my equation would be written as y equals 4x, where k, my constant of proportionality, and my constant of variation is 4. So what does that mean tying into what we learned yesterday? So again, remember that it is y per x, right? So 4y per x. So when I make a table, I have 4y for every 1x. So 1x, 4y. And if I double it like I did yesterday, 2 and 8 would also be in the table. So when I draw this line, this graph is the same thing as this table. It actually includes the points. This means that if my line continues and goes on and on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, by the time I get to 7, I'm going to end up all the way up here at somewhere probably 28, or it will be 28. And if I go to 13 and I go up, that blue line is actually going to extend all the way up here, and it'll be at 52. So I have 1, 4, 2, 8, 7, 28, 13, and 52 that are all part of that same blue line. And I knew that because when I divided the points that were originally given to me in the story, I got a unit rate of 4. When I divided this, when I solved for 13, I also got a unit rate of 4. That means at this point, this purple point, and this green point are all the same y equals 4x. They all have the same proportion, the same value of 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, and 4. So I hope that helps you guys see why what we're doing is important. So I'm going to go back just to show you one more time. When I solved, so here was my first point, right? 728, that's my x and my y. When I solved for 13, this was my x, and my y I already knew was 52. So 728, 13, and 52, that's what I put in my table, 7, 28, 13, and 52. When I divided them, I got the same constant, which was 4. And that just means for every 4, there's one, for every 4y, there's 1x, or every 1x, there's 4y. And so that's what we're doing. We're not going to have to do this whole part. I just wanted to make sure you knew how it ties into what we've already learned, so that you don't think, Miss, we're doing something completely different. No, we're literally just making the table and matching the graph just like we did today. So it does tie in together. All right. However, for today, we are just going to be responsible with finding the values of either x or y. So let's look at question number 1. It says, if y is directly proportional with x. You might also see it if y varies directly with x. Again, varies directly or directly proportional, they mean the same thing. So direct variation and proportionality. All right. It says, and y is equal to 56 when x is equal to 8. What is the value of y when x is 13? So first off, I'm going to go ahead and put my y over x. And the first part says that y is 52 when x is 8. I'm sorry, 56. So my numerator is 56, my denominator is 8. It says next, what is the value of y? That means I'm not going to know my numerator, but I do know that x is 13. Again, this right here just matches what I just read. Y was 56, x was 8. What is the value of y? It means I don't know it, but I know that x is 13. So we're going to take that and solve by cross multiply and divide. 56 times 13 is 728. Divided by 8, I get that y equals 91. So my answer is C. Now I can divide them and then I can get my graph, but for today, we're only responsible for knowing how to solve for this variable. Okay, so let's try it again. If y is directly proportional with x, y is 24 when x is 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that fraction down. Y is 24 when x is 6. What is the value of x? This time, I'm not going to know x, but I do know that y is 16. Okay, so again, y is 24 when x is 6. What is the value of x when y is 16? All right, so let's go ahead and write that fraction down, or that proportion. And we're going to use the same thing that we used the last time. Cross multiply and then divide. So 16 times 6 is 96 divided by 24. 96 divided by 24, I get y equals to 4, which actually this should be x equals to 4. Right? Because we are solving for x. So let me go ahead and fix that. There you go. All right, so again, because I'm solving for x, I get that the value of x equals to 4. All right, the next one is the same thing that we were just doing, except it's written in words. After taking typing lessons for 3 months, Joanna can type 285 words in 5 minutes. How many words can she type in 13 minutes? So first of all, thinking of my unit rate ahead, I think of words per minute, right? I know that's how my unit rate should be written. So because I've mentioned to you guys already before, we always do y per x. So my words are y, my minute is x, or my minutes are x. All right, so again, y over x, or in this case, words over minutes. So looking at what is first being told to me here, 285 words in 5 minutes. So that is my first fraction. How many words means that I don't know my y, but I know that I want to know in 13 minutes. So writing this proportion down, I'm going to do the same steps that I did on my last other examples. 285 times 13 is 3,705 divided by 5. So 3,705 divided by 5, I get y equals 741. So the only difference in this one with words is just that you have to make sure you know that it's y is words, x is minutes, and that'll help you set up the equation. All right, so that is it. That is all the lesson for today. You will have an assignment today. I believe it's about 8 questions on what we just did. Don't forget that you can always come back to the video and re-watch it over and over again so you can see the steps as many times as you need to so that you can work on the assignment. Remember that from now on, every assignment that is assigned on a specific date is due on that date. So for Wednesday, the assignment that is in classwork on Wednesday is due Wednesday. The assignment that were due Monday and Tuesday. So the Monday's assignment was due Monday. Tuesday's assignment was due Tuesday. As you're turning them in late, it does tell me that you're turning them in late. So make sure that you are keeping up with your work every single day and not leaving it for the weekend or anything like that, because they will be submitted as a late submission. And that is all for today, guys.